Good morning. How are you? Well, it's beautiful out. It's overcast, but after yesterday's storm, it's a welcome difference. And yesterday, as you know, I did a limited walk and talk at a slower speed in the basement of my home. But later in the day, when the rains finally did stop, I went out and I did a regular walk. And what I found were the roads on either side were eaten away. There were channels where the water had run. The roads were kind of washed out at the bottom. I'm not saying this to you like you haven't seen it yourself, but it was a pretty serious storm. And I took a couple of the pictures, and I'll attach them to this walk and talk. The difficulties we continue to have in Washington, have to do with accountability, I think. That is that we've let too many get away with too much for too long. And our law and constitution and norms of behavior are all compromised. I thought a recent poll that indicated that the United States as a beacon of democracy had been diminished in recent years. And that's what we have to turn around. But how do we turn that around? And the way we turn it around is we don't just say, oh, shameful, they violated the law. We do something about it. And we haven't. And I know this is an old saw with us, but consider as recently as the last several days, I've heard the tape of Rudy Giuliani talking to the deputy chief for Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. And he's basically laying out in July of 2019 what he expects from him and how he wants to have another meeting. And how he's going to set up something with Trump. And they do, if you remember, in July, have the conversation in which Trump says, I'd like a favor. And his favor is an investigation of no less than Mr. Biden and his son. And in exchange, well, we can take care of those munitions that you need for that disagreement you're having with Putin. Now, Rudy Giuliani, in July, about a week or so before the president spoke to the then president, Trump spoke to Zelensky, he was laying this all out and talking about how they'd meet and everything. And he seemed to have a tentative agreement for an investigation, which is exactly what Rudy and Trump wanted against the one man that they believed could beat Trump. And as it turns out, they were absolutely right. And what they didn't count on, I suppose, was Rudy being such a blabbermouth and doing so many egregious things so publicly that we got ahead of it and we knew about it. And because of that, there was an impeachment, the first impeachment. And the second impeachment was about him actually supporting an insurrection, the overthrow of the government, threats to the Speaker of the House, kidnapping her, and death, hanging to the Vice President of the United States, the line of succession for the presidency. So, if you look at your Romans, the Catalonian conspiracy, they dealt with these things harshly, and they thought it was critical to do so. And Cicero, who was among the speaker in those trials in their Senate, spoke very harshly about what we should do and how we should do it and so forth. And Caesar, intimations of things to come, he was kind of on the side of those who were for the overthrow of the government. And he's always had an equivocal history. But the point of this historic reference is they went after the bad guys. They made them pay for it, and they paid for it more brutally than we do these days. Well, on two levels. One is we don't choke people to death and we don't crucify them. But we also don't punish them at all, seemingly. Now, where should the punishment come from? Well, the Senate can hold hearings all they want, and they have their subpoenas ducked, and they don't have any muscle to do anything except issue a report and said they did exactly what you think they did. They headed up an insurrection and involved senators and congressmen and people in our intelligence agency and these extreme alt-right groups that think of themselves as militia. And, they could write all that. But there's no sting in that. That's not what we need. And I think the country's coming to a point where they know what we need is an accounting for this. So where is Attorney General Garland. And, I've joked in a way, he's the nowhere man. He's not doing anything. In this sense, if it were your department and the head of your civil division or criminal division said they wouldn't do something you wanted them to do, you'd remove them. I would. I, as the Attorney General, in charge with the responsibility to enforce the law. And if I don't, I'm failing my duty and obligation and my sworn oath, particularly to preserve and protect the Constitution. So why do we still have so many Trump personages inside the Justice Department? And the answer is the appointments to these different divisions in the Justice Department haven't been approved on the Hill. Well, I believe in self-help, legal self-help in every situation. And we don't have to presently talk about unlawful, unconstitutional self-help because we have remedies. And the remedies here is if someone tells me they want to go in court and fight to represent Trump in a defamation suit that had nothing to do with his official position and involved an incident that he denied that happened in the 90s involving him sexually assaulting a woman in a store in New York, I say he doesn't get any support from us. Stop that now. That's what the AG should do. Again, Trump has a hotel, but it's leased from the United States. Why is the Justice Department defending Trump's interest against the United States' interest to deal with that lease as they see fit and to support the Democrats who challenge it? Again, what is that, Trump holdovers? We have to fire these Trump holdovers. When I say fire, these people, we live in an area of the world where if you blink the wrong way, the labor laws are so strong that you serve at will of whomever your employer is. But if you're appointed in a discretionary position, some call them political position, and you were appointed by the former administration, you're gone. Oh, well, what about those waiting on the Hill to be confirmed? Fine, we'll wait on them to be confirmed. Meanwhile, we'll have acting chiefs of the civil division, of the criminal division, and I, the AG, will scrutinize what's going on. Because the old rule has been overturned by an election, and the old rule is being overturned by a sense of justice and duty and obligation. Is this comparable to the Catalonian conspiracy? Yes, it is. How is the outcome comparable? Not at all. Now, I'm not talking about the extreme punishment that they did in that situation with Cicero. But what I am talking about is there has been zero punishment, no sanctions. These investigations, both Mueller's and this new one, are insulated from, barring out the people that need to be looked at. Only the rioters? Sorry, there were more than the rioters involved. And then this recent thing in which they're asking Apple to give them information about two leading members of the Intelligence Committee and subpoenaing documents to tell them what journalists are doing, outrageous. And they're giving it to an IG appointed by Trump. Wrong. This is so obviously wrong. I applaud the fact that Garland came out and said we were going to fight for the right to vote. Absolutely. But that can't be a sop to have us leisurely move back and not say, yes, but you have to do more than that. You have to do something about these crimes against the state. You cannot sit on your hands. If you believe all the things you said when you were talking about individual rights and liberties and the Constitution involved with voting, well, this is one as comparable and as important, and it involves an insurrection against our government. The defeat of it because we want to ignore the vote. If you want a voting issue, it is what happened on June the 6th. These people wanted to ignore the vote and install someone the way only dictators arrive at their, quote, destiny. So that's what I'm thinking today. I'll talk to you again tomorrow, Sunday. Bye-bye.